Alright, Shalom, all praises be unto Yahweh, Ba'asham Yahweh Shai, Ba'asham Recha Kodash. Double honor unto the elder apostles and the elder bishops at Great Millstone who were well and taught us this truth. And salute to the Arkim who continue to push the word in truth and in sincerity. And from time to time, whilst the order of the day is prophecy, we have to revisit particular topics. Sometimes we have to go back to the basics. Two of those reasons being is that there's always newer brothers coming in, newer than ourselves, that is, and therefore need to learn these things which some of us may already know. Again, prophecy is the order of the day, but the scripture also says, "I have not shunned to declare unto you the whole gospel of Yahweh Shai." So, for it is the power of the Most High unto salvation. So, we go over all topics. And number two, you have people that disagree and teach alternative doctrines, in which case we are sitting the defense of the gospel and have to push the correct understanding of various topics, Anyhow, I've waited till now to do this video because I can use this app and use it in real time to explain, the new moon and the Sabbath. Now, what I'm going to do is, let's see something. If I go here, this is the book of Isaiah 66 and verse 23, and it says, "And it shall come to pass that from one new moon to another, and from one Sabbath to another, shall all flesh come to worship before me, saith the Lord Yahweh Ba'asham Yahweh Shai." Right? So it's very clear here in the book of Isaiah 66, from one new moon to another, and from one Sabbath to another, shall all flesh come to worship before me. Okay? So, already we can see that there is a link between the new moon and the Sabbaths. Okay? You can't get a Sabbath without having an understanding of the moon cycle, because the Sabbath is dictated by the moon and the month cycle. Okay? Now, here we have in the book of Ecclesiasticus 43, and I'll start from verse 6, and it says, "He made the moon also to serve in her season for a declaration of times and a sign of the world." Okay, a declaration of times. The declaration of times is the months. Okay. And it also speaks prophetically and a sign of the world. Hence we have blood moons and things of that nature. Bright moons, blood moons, all kind of things like that. The scriptures speak about the moon being turned to blood. That's prophetically. But in its normal course, it is for the signs of the feast. It says here in verse 7, "For the moon is the sign of the feast, a light that decreaseth in her perfection. The month is called after her name, increasing wonderfully in her changing, being an instrument of the armies above, shining in the firmament of heaven." Okay, so the month is called after her name. Okay, so the word month comes from the word moon. a new moon, Khadash, is where the word month would come from. Okay. Now, it says here, wonderfully, no, let me read verse 8. The month is called after her name, increasing wonderfully in her changing. Another key word in this verse is changing. The changing is what? 4 segments of changing. Now, what I'm going to do is go here. Meaning of the word week. Do you know what, Salaki? I should have put etymology. It would have just taken me right to it. Week, and it says a course to change, give way, a turning, a succession, meaning primarily change or alteration. So, when we go back to Ecclesiasticus 43:8, and it says the month is called after her name, increasing wonderfully in her changing. What it means is as the weeks go on, it increases wonderfully in her changing, meaning from week to week, it changes, man. Okay? From week to week, it changes. Because the word change means it's synonymous with the word week. So every week, the moon enters a different phase. Okay? So, here we have the moon app, and you can download this. There's various types you can get of apps. Now, the new moon came in yesterday evening, Wednesday evening. Now, if you go to Wednesday, Wednesday at 0%, all right, this is a new moon. A new moon is a dark moon. It's completely dark. But if you check at the top right, it's slightly, well, maybe the app wouldn't really show it as much. But the more let me see something, if I can, I want to get a depiction of it. Okay, here is showing by Friday. But I mean, when you look up in the sky, right, you'd be able to see a slither usually on the right hand side, but the moon holistically is dark. Okay, this is a new moon, right? Now the new moon doesn't conduct the day, or should I say the moon doesn't conduct the day, or the beginning of days. The moon conducts the month and the weeks. Okay, let's get that in the scriptures. If you go to Genesis chapter 1, Genesis 1:14, the power said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons, for days and for years." Okay, so the light that conducts days is the sun. Okay, in the same chapter of Genesis, if you keep reading, it will say, case in point, my eyes just clapped on it, verse 13, and the evening and the morning were the third day, evening and morning were the fourth day. the sun dictates the days. Yeah. So when the sun goes down at the evening, that is the beginning of the next day. Right, that's the end of one day, and it's right into the beginning of the next day. Okay. So days are controlled by the sun, the greater light to rule the day, meaning that that's the primary light you see in the daytime, and the moon to rule by night, the lesser light, that's the primary light we see in the nighttime. But what actually constitutes the beginning and the end of the day is the rising and setting of the sun. Be it the setting of the sun is the beginning of a new day. Okay. So, the new moon came in on Wednesday, right? I say all of this to say the new moon comes in, but just because the new moon comes in, the day isn't ended or begun. The new moon has come in, but the acknowledgement of that would be at evening. So let's check this. Let's go to 0%. 0.10. Right. So at Wednesday evening, let's see. How do we do this? Okay. Also, okay, I'm going too far. It's kind of tricky to get it as accurate as. All right. Let's just say this. Right. Any of these points, it's all the same thing, right? So let's just say at on Wednesday at 6:26, right, or whatever. Any, like I said, the more you move it, obviously it's on a metric, it's gonna change, but that's the time the new moon came in. But if you check it for the last couple of days, sunset has been just after 8 o'clock. Okay, in certain cases, the new moon can come in many hours before. You know, as in the moon is back to complete darkness. Okay, but it's acknowledged that the Sabbath day begins at evening because the days go by the sun. Okay, so the beginning and ending of a day goes by the sun, weeks and the months go by the moon. Okay, so again, let's go back to I just had from one Isaiah 66 and 23. And it shall come to pass that from one new moon to another, and from one Sabbath to another, shall all flesh come to worship before me. Alright? So the Sabbath is dictated by the new moon. So you go to a new moon here, Wednesday at evening, which was yesterday, to today's so-called Thursday, in England, well, now it's Friday, according to this calendar. But Wednesday evening to Thursday evening was the new moon, right? So that means every so-called Wednesday evening to Thursday evening for the next 3 weeks after this is going to be the Sabbath, because that is how the moon fell in accordance with this calendar that we're currently under, which is the Gregorian calendar. So how it links up with the Gregorian calendar, the Sabbath can fall on various days. Okay. Now, as we keep going, as you can see, the moon will start to get brighter. The moon will start to get brighter. You see that slither coming in from the right corner? The percentage of brightness, by the way. You already read that in Ecclesiasticus. Let's keep going. It calls it here waxing crescent. The names they give it in astrology: waxing gibbous. Now, when it gets to 100%, Yeah, 100%, right? 99.5. That's pretty much 100%, right? Let's look at the the stats below. A full moon is oh, it says in, okay, cool. That's from that time. Let's go to the one below. New moon in, all right, let's just change this on 99.9%. Moon age, Salaki, that's what I wanted. Moon age. The moon age is, here it says 15 days. All right. Now the 14th day at evening, because the sun dictates the days at evening, that would become what? The 15th day. Okay, so 14th day at evening is the 15th day. All right, that is the full moon. So the full moon ain't the new moon. Okay, a full moon is not a new moon, and the full moon is not the new moon where you keep the Sabbath. Okay, the full moon is halfway through a month already at its perfection. Okay, so when we kept the Passover, where is that in Exodus 12? Start from verse 3. Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, in the 10th day of this month, they shall take to them every man a lamb according to the house of their fathers, a lamb of an house. If the household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next unto his house take it according to the number of the souls. Every man according to his eating shall make your count for the lamb. Your lamb shall be without blemish. A male of the first year, ye shall take it out from the sheep or from the goats, and ye shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month. And the whole assembly of the congregation shall kill it in the evening. The evening and the morning were the first day. How do you have evening time? By the moon? No, you have evening time because of the sun. When the sun goes down, that's evening. That's the end of one day and the beginning of the next. So the 14th day at evening is the 15th day. Okay. Right? And this is obviously getting into the Passover, man. Okay. So the 15th day, how can the 15th day be the first day? The 15th day, the 14th day at evening is halfway through the month. That's why the Passover falls on it's always going to be a full moon. Okay, it's always going to be a full moon because it's the 14th day at evening. All right, which is the beginning of the 15th day, a full moon, right? It says it right here, moon age 15 days and 6 hours it would be, and that's obviously just because I've got it on this particular metric. But if I move it back a bit, the statistics change. Okay, but it's the 14th day at evening, man. Right? So the Friday to Saturday Sabbath that the small hats do, that is not based. I mean, that goes back to witchcraft and worshipping of Saturnalia and and all that stuff. And I could get into that. But at the end of the day, man, if you look at calendars, right, it just doesn't add up. Now, let's see. The calendar that we're under, right? The Gregorian calendar, introduced by Pope Gregory VIII in 1582, was itself an attempt to address the problems of its predecessor, the Julian calendar. Okay, now this is the current calendar that we're under. All right, the Gregorian calendar, right? Now, I mean, I could get into that, but I want to keep this quite a basic video, for the basic understanding of the Sabbath and its relation with the new moon. We could get into it on a much deeper level, which we have done in the past, but I want us to, remain fairly basic so it can establish a relationship between a new moon and the Sabbath days, So to keep it on that level, and if the Spirit wills, like I said, I've done videos on this before, other brothers have before, if I do another version that goes really intricate into every single detail, then that's fine. But for now, I'll keep it like this. But seeing that we're under the Gregorian calendar, which was established in 1582, my question is to everybody that keeps the Sabbath from Friday to Saturday, what the hell was happening before 1582? Or did the Lord only establish the Sabbath in 1582? Where was Moses and the Israelites at Mount Sinai in 1582? The times don't add up. 1582 in the Gregorian calendar and the giving of the Sabbath are not contemporary timelines, man. Okay? So what were they doing in the wilderness? What wall calendar did the Israelites have in the wilderness? What pages were they flipping in the wilderness? Okay, it's July now. Lest we get into the names of the months and their pagan origins. But, like I said, not going to go on that level right now. What were the Israelites following in the wilderness? What wall calendar did they have posted up in their houses? With pictures of daffodils and sunflowers and lilies and rivers in the back. What calendar were they following? How did they know to count the months? How did they know a Sabbath was coming in? How did they know even a new day was coming in? Because they were using the heavenly instruments. They were using the heavenly instruments, which is the sun and the moon. The sun for days and the moon for months and weeks. Let's read it again. Ecclesiasticus 43 and verse 6. He made the moon also to serve in her season for a declaration of times and a sign of the world. From the moon is the sign of feasts. Okay. I may do another lesson on all the feasts that we have in our Israelite calendar, man. You got weekly Sabbaths, you got high holy Sabbaths, you got various feast days which fall on Sabbaths, all kind of things, man. We kind of touched on the Passover very briefly in Exodus the 12th chapter, man. But it's all linked in, okay? A light that decreaseth in her perfection, And when does it reach its perfection? We just went through it, man. The perfection is halfway through the month, It's halfway through the month. Just like anything. What's the perfection of anything? Like the middle, man. You grow up, you're a baby. You can't hold your head up. Your mom, your dad has to hold your head up. You can't feed yourself. You can't bathe yourself, But then over the years, you grow. Now, 10 years down the line, you're a 10/11-year-old, you're much more developed, but you're somewhat still dependent. You're 15, you're 16, you're still growing, getting used to a manly body. But when you hit around 25, between 25 and 30 is your prime, With this life expectancy in this world, that's about half your age, Okay? And scriptures speak about that, man. With strength and the blessing of the Lord, you can get more years, But you hit 30, 35, that's the ultimate peak of your prime. And then from there on out, you're heading down, man. But that's halfway through most people's life expectancy. Then they on the decline for the next 35 years. Now you're 65 and you're ready to die again, So the middle of anything is really the pinnacle, man, The pinnacle being the top, like you get to a mountain, the top, then either side of it is what? The descent, or whatever angle you take is the descent. But in the middle at the top is the highest point. It's peak, it's pinnacle. So the highest point is always at the middle. Okay? Right? So the highest point, the pinnacle of the moon is at the middle of its cycle, which is 2 weeks. The 14th going into the 15th day of the month, which is the second week, which is the second change. Because every 7 days, the month on the moon undergoes a change. All right? So before the Gregorian calendar, let's say we was under the Julian calendar, how would you Friday to Saturday keep the Sabbath then? How would you be able to do that? How? Because man's calendars can change, but the Lord set the heavenly bodies in their course to stand forever. The moon's not going to change. The sun's not going to change. But a calendar people make changes, man. I think the Egyptians had like a 10-day week or something like that. Man can change what they want to go by on paper, but the heavenly bodies stay the same, right? So this is 2 weeks into the month. Now, if we use this app and keep going, now you can see the percentage is going to start slowly decreasing. 96, 93, and then it goes all the way down. Now, hold on 1 second. At 58% brightness, right, which is just above half, where are we now? We're going to be, the moon age is 21 days. Keep going as the moon gets darker and dimmer. All right? We're almost 25 days into the month. All right? And then we go all the way back to like 3%, which is hardly anything, 2%, 1 day till the new moon again. So the new moon is a dark moon with an extremely small slither of light. All right, so insignificant in its brightness, at the naked eye, at a quick glimpse, it just looks dark. Right, hardly visible. So the month starts with the new moon, which is not a full moon, and the new moon dictates the Sabbath cycle. All right. So you've got people that say, "Oh yeah, but you keep this new moon Sabbath and it doesn't make sense." And then when you really check it, yes, it is 28.5 days, 3 days, man. Okay, But what it is that Jake is used to going to the bus stop and it says the bus is coming in 3 minutes, so they believe it's coming in 3 minutes, and then when it does, they feel confident in reading the bus time schedule next time because it's always exact. What you come to understand with the scriptures is that the Lord oftentimes will give, even in prophecy, he'll give a particular number, but it can happen just before or just after. The Lord doesn't deal with exact figures on the dot, right? Prophetically, that's the case. Case in point, 70 AD comes to mind. You'd think that 70 AD started in 70 AD, right? Well, if you check the sources, some say as early as 65, 67, 65, AD, but it's coined 70 AD. There's many prophecies and many things in scripture that has a particular number on it, but it can be just above or just under. You know, Jake has been in this world too long to like things polished off. You know, polished off thing. When you check out the altars weren't polished off stonework. They were rough stones that couldn't be hewn. You know, that's how the Lord deals, man. You know. Okay. And what it is, guys get confused with the 28.53 thing, and the 30 days and this, because they don't understand the relationship between the sun and the moon. They don't know if the moon is to do with the Sabbath or the sun, you know. And they're trying to add it up, make it add up with a Gregorian calendar. You can't try and add the scriptures up or the biblical calendar with a Gregorian calendar. It's not gonna work. You have to adjust your whole mindset. That's why the topic of the Sabbath is hard for some people, because they're trying to make it make sense in Babylon or wherever land is scattered in, whatever calendar you're following. Alright? You can't pair up the biblical calendar with the Gregorian calendar and think it's going to make perfect sense. Of course, according to this calendar, there's going to be anomalies and, that doesn't add up. Yeah, we're not following this calendar. We only use these dates and these days, you know, because it's an easy reference. But really, there ain't no such thing as Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. That's not Israelite custom. It's day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, Sabbath. Okay. So like I said, I could do a much more in-depth lesson on this, you know. You can get into nautical sunsets, astronomical sunsets, civil sunsets, all of that, man, to do with the moon. You know, like I said, deeper on in the calendar, the Gregorian calendar. But I just want to keep this light for now, man. So yeah, man, with that, shalom.